Vikings, let's win this game.
Training camp is almost here, and the pressure surrounding the Minnesota Vikings is already impossible to ignore. A legendary receiver has delivered a serious warning about one of Minnesota's most talented offensive weapons, while the franchise's biggest star has made his feelings clear about the quarterback battle. We're also breaking down what this offseason revealed about the Vikings' plans for 2026 and why the struggles of one candidate may not be nearly as concerning as they appeared. Jordan Addison may be approaching the most important season of his young NFL career, and one legendary receiver believes the biggest question has nothing to do with his ability to play football. Steve Smith Sr., who accumulated more than 14,000 receiving yards during his 16-year career, believes Addison possesses all the necessary tools to become a successful NFL receiver. But Smith also delivered a direct challenge, saying Addison is standing at a crossroads and must prove what kind of professional he intends to become. According to Smith, nobody is questioning whether Addison can play. The concern is whether he can remain engaged and conduct himself properly away from the Vikings facility without getting into trouble, facing another suspension, or creating headaches that could take money off the table. That final point matters because Addison's long-term future in Minnesota could be decided by what happens in 2026. The Vikings exercised his fifth-year option earlier this offseason, keeping him under contract through 2027, but they stopped short of giving him the massive extension that could eventually approach $100 million. Minnesota now has another full season to evaluate not only Addison's production but also his reliability. His rookie campaign showed exactly why the Vikings used a first-round pick on him. He established career highs in receptions, receiving yards and touchdowns, and immediately looked capable of becoming an ideal running mate for Justin Jefferson. Since then, however, injuries and a suspension have prevented him from consistently staying on the field. When Addison is healthy and available, his value to this offense is obvious. Defenses cannot devote all their attention to Jefferson when Addison is attacking the opposite side of the field, but talent alone does not automatically justify a long-term commitment of that size. With Jefferson already occupying a significant portion of the salary cap, Minnesota must be certain that another major investment at wide receiver will be dependable. If Addison cannot return to the production he showed as a rookie, or if more problems emerge away from football, the Vikings could eventually consider trading their former first-round pick and spending that money elsewhere. That is the crossroads Smith was talking about. Addison is not simply playing for better statistics this year. He is playing to establish trust and prove that Minnesota can build around him for the long term, and his performance will be directly connected to another major storyline beginning at training camp. Ian Rappaport expects the competition between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy to continue through camp, the preseason, and potentially right up to the start of the regular season. Murray may have entered the offseason as the perceived favorite after signing for the veteran minimum, but Kevin O'Connell is not rushing to declare a winner. McCarthy will have a legitimate opportunity to fight for the job, and the decision could determine far more than who takes the first snap. It will affect Addison's opportunity to prove himself, the direction of the offense, and perhaps the Vikings' entire season. Minnesota needs an answer at quarterback, but it also needs Addison to demonstrate that the organization can trust him wherever he is. Steve Smith's warning was blunt, but this is Addison's opportunity to answer it. Justin Jefferson understands quarterback instability better than almost any elite receiver in football. Through 6 NFL seasons, he has already caught passes from 10 different quarterbacks, yet he continues to produce regardless of who is under center. That experience gives his opinion on the competition between J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray even more weight, and Jefferson appears to understand exactly what each player must prove. During an appearance on ESPN's This Is Football podcast, Jefferson said the competition should force McCarthy to step up his game and show that competitive edge. When discussing Murray, Jefferson pointed to the veteran's proven playmaking ability, but emphasized the need for him to embrace the leadership role that this Vikings team must fill. Those comments were not an endorsement of one quarterback over the other. Instead, Jefferson identified the challenge facing both players. McCarthy must show that he can respond when an experienced former first overall pick is standing beside him, competing for the same job. Murray must prove that he can arrive in a new organization, learn a demanding system, and become the leader Minnesota needs at the most important position on the field. Jefferson will be the primary weapon for whichever quarterback wins, and his 2025 season showed just how much he can overcome. The Vikings struggled to find consistent quarterback play, but Jefferson still caught 84 passes for 1,048 yards and 2 touchdowns. He received 140 targets across 17 games and generated 435 yards after the catch. It may have been considered a quieter season by his extraordinary standards, but it was still his 5th campaign with at least 1,000 receiving yards. He also delivered several reminders of what happens when the offense gives him a real opportunity. In Week 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jefferson caught 10 passes for 126 yards. In the season finale against the Green Bay Packers, he finished with 8 catches for 101 yards. His receiving grade of 80.2 from Pro Football Focus ranked 17th among qualified receivers, confirming that even during a down season, Jefferson remained one of the league's most effective players. But the Vikings cannot continue asking him to compensate for instability forever. Minnesota has a receiver capable of taking over games, changing defensive coverages, and making life easier for any quarterback. The franchise now has to give him enough stability to maximize that advantage. McCarthy is trying to recover from an inconsistent, injury-affected season and prove he can still become the long-term answer. Murray is also looking to rebound after dealing with an injury last season while showing that his best football is not behind him. Both players are entering a difficult competition in one of the NFL's toughest divisions, and every practice rep will matter. Jefferson's role could extend beyond catching passes. His communication, standards, and ability to adjust may help both quarterbacks become more comfortable within the offense. Still, this cannot become another season in which Minnesota simply expects Jefferson to make everything work. The quarterback who earns the job must elevate the players around him, not merely rely on Jefferson to rescue the offense. The Vikings have playoff-level talent at multiple positions, but their chances in the NFC North will depend heavily on whether this competition produces a clear and dependable starter. Jefferson does not appear concerned about which name wins. He wants McCarthy to compete with more urgency, Murray to provide leadership, and the eventual starter to stabilize a position that has changed far too often during his career. The Vikings' offseason was filled with major changes, but 3 developments may reveal more about the organization's direction than anything else. The first is that Minnesota clearly believes improved quarterback play can take this team back to the playoffs. Despite finishing last season with a winning record at 9-8, the Vikings missed the postseason, and inconsistent quarterback play was one of the primary reasons. J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer all struggled at different points, making it difficult for the offense to establish a consistent identity. Kevin O'Connell recently explained that the off-season goal was to elevate the position and create a room where multiple quarterbacks could push one another toward the standard required to win games. Instead of allowing outside noise to drive the competition, O'Connell wants the Vikings to put the football down, let the quarterbacks compete, and determine who makes the team better. That explains why Minnesota added Kyler Murray rather than simply handing the job back to McCarthy. Murray brings the experience and talent of a former first overall pick, while Wentz, McCarthy, and Brosmer already have a year of experience in O'Connell's system. Minnesota wanted options after learning how quickly an uncertain quarterback situation can damage an otherwise competitive roster. The second major takeaway is that the Vikings appear serious about running the football more often. Fans have heard similar promises during O'Connell's tenure, but this time the personnel and coaching moves support the idea. Minnesota hired Keith Carter as offensive line coach. Carter has faced criticism for his coaching techniques from players such as Taylor Lewin and Breece Hall, but he also coached the Tennessee Titans offensive line when Derrick Henry rushed for more than 2,000 yards in 2020. The Vikings also brought in assistant head coach Frank Smith, who served as the Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator and developed a reputation for creativity in the running game. Miami averaged 4.7 yards per carry last season, tying for 4th in the NFL. Minnesota may not have Devon Achane, but the Vikings believe they have enough talent to create an effective rotation. Jordan Mason returns after rushing for 758 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. Aaron Jones is back on a revised contract, and 6th-round rookie Demon Claiborne generated excitement during minicamp. Jones even compared Claiborne's speed to Detroit Lions star Jahmyr Gibbs. 5th-round pick Max Bredesen could also help clear running lanes as the replacement for C.J. Ham. A stronger rushing attack would reduce the burden on whoever wins the quarterback competition, protect the offense from becoming predictable, and create more favorable opportunities for Jefferson and Addison. The third takeaway concerns how the Vikings intend to construct the roster over the long term. Minnesota fired Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in January, and his lack of draft success was one of the major issues surrounding his departure. only 12 of the 28 players drafted during his time as general manager remain with the team entering the season, and that number could fall again after final cuts. Nolan Teasley now takes over after previously working as an assistant general manager with the Seattle Seahawks under John Schneider. That experience exposed him to an organization that consistently replenished its roster through the draft, allowing Seattle to withstand the departure of players such as Kenneth Walker III when they received significant contracts elsewhere. It also contributed to a championship infrastructure that eventually helped Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl after he was unable to do so in Minnesota. But Vikings fans may need patience before judging Teasley's influence. His true impact will not become clear until he controls a complete draft cycle and has time to reshape the roster. For now, the offseason has revealed the blueprint: create real competition at quarterback, establish a more credible rushing attack, and stop depending on expensive short-term solutions by drafting and developing a sustainable core. Kyler Murray's struggles during minicamp generated concern, but history suggests Vikings fans should be careful about treating a few difficult practices as a preview of his entire season. Murray was attempting to learn Kevin O'Connell's offense while splitting repetitions with J.J. McCarthy, and the process was not always smooth. He made several mistakes during 7-on-7 drills and later acknowledged that the limited number of practice reps made it harder to become comfortable. Those struggles gave McCarthy an opportunity to close the perceived gap before training camp, but they may say more about the complexity of the system than Murray's ability to succeed in it. When O'Connell arrived in Minnesota before the 2022 season, Kirk Cousins needed flashcards to learn the offense. Adam Thielen admitted that he felt like he was swimming while trying to absorb all the new information. Cousins completed 63.4% of his passes for 2,461 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions through his first 9 starts in the system. Once he became more comfortable, those numbers improved significantly. Over his final 7 games, he completed 69.5% of his passes for 2,086 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Sam Darnold experienced a similar adjustment before the 2024 season. During his first 9 starts, he completed 68.6% of his passes for 2,141 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Over the final 8 games, he threw 18 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions and played well enough to enter the MVP conversation. Murray is a different quarterback from Cousins and Darnold, especially because his mobility and dual threat ability add another dimension to the offense. But those examples demonstrate that becoming fluent in O'Connell's system takes time, even for experienced quarterbacks. The question is whether Murray receives enough repetitions to reach that comfort level while competing with McCarthy. Splitting the workload can slow the learning process, but that situation could change quickly if Murray begins producing the baseline level of play O'Connell expects. There is also an important distinction in how the two quarterbacks may be evaluated. McCarthy may not simply need to match Murray during camp. He may need to clearly outperform him. The Vikings already know what an established version of Murray can provide, while they witnessed McCarthy's inconsistency throughout last season. If the competition remains close, Minnesota could favor the veteran and allow McCarthy more time to develop. That does not mean Murray should automatically receive the job. His practice performance, command of the offense, decision-making, and leadership must justify the opportunity. But early mistakes while learning the playbook should not erase his complete body of work or convince fans that the experiment has already failed. Minicamp may have made the battle more competitive than many expected, and that is probably healthy for both quarterbacks. McCarthy now has a genuine chance to force a difficult decision, while Murray knows his reputation will not win the job for him. Training camp and the preseason will reveal whether Murray can process the offense faster when the repetitions increase. Until then, his off-season struggles should be viewed as part of an adjustment process, not proof that he cannot succeed in Minnesota. The Vikings have created real competition at quarterback, but that decision places pressure on nearly everyone around it. Addison must prove Minnesota can trust him with a long-term investment. Jefferson needs the eventual starter to finally bring stability to the offense. O'Connell must transform a crowded quarterback room and a deeper running game into a playoff return. So, Purple Faithful, who wins the job, and do you trust Addison enough to give him a massive extension? Let me know below. And as always, stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!